It took a healthy imagination to see the 42 industrial concrete tubes of the original grain silo transformed into a viable space to house sculptures, paintings, and photography. This is what that creative vision produced.
To house one of Africa's most prolific contemporary art collections, you need a space that can equal the display in both scale and grandeur. We're at Africa's newest premium gallery to explore its treasures and find out how this dream became a reality we can all enjoy.
With 100 smaller galleries within its greater structure, the museum collects, preserves, researches, and shows 21st century work by artists from the African continent. It's a mammoth task.
Mark, firstly, congratulations on such sensational work. Now, as far as the geography goes, tell us about the various themes we can explore.
It was an old grain silo built in the 1930s, decommissioned in 2003, now a public museum. It's 9 floors, of which 7 are open to the public. Spread across the 7 floors is the permanent exhibition galleries, 2 floors for temporary exhibitions, curatorial exhibitions that will be short, maybe 100 days. They might come from somewhere else in the world, they might be generated here. So when you come in, there's a multiplicity of actions, art forms, focuses. So I think each person that comes will find something that truly touches their heart, that they really can identify with, and a medium which is of this moment.
Increasingly, there are art audio tours for adults, children, and for those interested in the architecture. Currently in English, these will soon be available in Xhosa, Zulu, and Afrikaans.
What was the curatorial vision of the gallery?
For a very long time, the history and narrative of Africa has been written by outsiders. And one of the most empirical things that we wanted to do with this museum was to say, why are Africans not able to write their own history? So we wanted to build a platform to make sure that our artists, our curators, and our people, if not controlling everything about us, at least participate in the way that our story is told, the way our histories are explained, and how we present ourselves to the world.
The success of the museum is balancing the story of art from our continent with the grand tale of the building. Standing 10 stories high, the silo was the tallest structure in the city for years. As a civil engineer and CEO of the V&A Waterfront, David Green loves to share how they made it happen.
So which part of the silo was original and what's all new?
Having decided that we wanted to make this the centrepiece and we wanted to celebrate this industrial architecture, we commissioned Thomas Heatherwick, the English architect, and his studio to look at the architecture. We workshopped with them and we actually came up with the idea that it should be a museum. And the thinking there was that there's not many windows, museums don't need windows, and Cape Town, being in the sweet spot it is, it actually needs more museums. So his studio came up with this incredible concept where he took a piece of corn, the corn that used to go through here. This was part of a master plan which gathered corn from around Africa and then exported that corn to the world. And the thinking was, well, we'll gather art from Africa and the world will come and view that, which is a lovely, lovely sort of parallel in there. But they came up with this idea of what he called making a grain of corn the hero by blowing it up to a 10-story building and then cutting that out to join the 2 buildings to create the atrium. So the main design features were the pillowed lantern windows, so turning this into a building which is a beacon. And we wanted to draw people into the building to get them to see the artwork. So that was why the whole feature was the internal. What was important to us was to say, how do we repurpose this? How do we allow people to say, wow, just look at the industrial architecture, look at the soul and the character, the tunnels underneath. And from our point of view, that's the hero.
The art itself was collected over years by Johann Zeitz, a German businessman renowned for turning around a major sportswear brand.
Why Africa and why Cape Town?
Well, I believe in the transformative power of contemporary art, and ever since I've come to Africa in '89, I was inspired by its people, by its nature, and by the creativity. And I just felt that as somebody who grew up in Europe and had an opportunity to go to a museum, I didn't find that institution and that place for artists where they could exhibit their art on the continent. So I did a bit of research and realized there really wasn't a big institution out there, and that's when we started to collect, with this idea of one day putting the collection somewhere into Africa.
Where do you see this collection, especially in context with the international art scene?
I would say it's art from Africa, because African art is kind of a bit of a, umbrella. There's an enormous diversity in Africa, 54 states, artists from all over that have different messages, cultural backgrounds. So it's really lots of artists that are from Africa or originate from Africa. And when we feel this really needs to be represented somewhere in Africa, and we chose Cape Town because we felt it was a great place for visitors, but also for lots of Africans that come here, as well as locals that now have an opportunity to access the museum.
For Jochen, it's essential for children from Africa to be initiated into their incredible heritage and to treasure it.
What was your feeling when you walked into your gallery?
Well, you see plans and you see animation and you hope it's going to be as dramatic as it looks on paper, but really seeing it live was quite overwhelming and exciting, because it was really a dream come true to see such an atrium that would grab people's attention and really draw them into the building. And that was the idea, get people excited about a building. And then, because not everyone has been exposed to contemporary art from Africa or has ever been in a museum quite often, so having this dramatic entree and then being invited into the galleries, I thought was just perfect.
Now, how and where did you acquire Nicholas Klobo's Lightning Bird?
Well, we bought it at the Venice Biennale. It was such a fantastic installation, and we saw it and very quickly said this would be ideal somehow to, be presented in the opening in the gallery or the atrium of a museum. At the time, we actually didn't even know that this would happen here in Cape Town. We had no idea that this would be the building, but we always felt this was a very dramatic opening for an exhibition.
Well, it must be said, thank you so much for bringing this to South Africa.
The best news is there's free entry for under 18s all year at all times, and for all African citizens of any age each and every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.